Hey everyone, it's Adam Helfman from Hire It Done. On this week's podcast, we're going to be going over questions to ask every contractor. We're going to be going over what types of communication with your contractor are acceptable. Is it texting, emails? What is it, phone calls? And we're going to talk about dispute resolution. If you have a problem with your contractor, how are you going to solve it? Tune in next. Hey everyone, it's Adam Helfman. Welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to talk about questions you need to ask a contractor. So you're thinking about a bathroom, a kitchen, a garage, siding, roofing, windows, whatever it is. Let's use a longer term project. Let's use a kitchen, for example. What questions should you ask the potential contractor so that you know that you're going to have someone who's good, right? Now, there's basic questions. Are you licensed? Are you insured? Do you have references? I think most people assume that they are licensed, they are insured, or they have references. In fact, I don't know one contractor who you ask, hey, do you have references? He's going to say, no, I don't. They're all going to say yes, whether it's a brother-in-law, cousin, or a family member. But the key here is, how do you go to the next level? How do you peel away a layer and make sure that you're making the right decision? So you must still always ask those questions because you never know. Oh, you don't need to be licensed if you're doing the same footprint. That's BS, okay? Anything over $600 needs to be licensed. And it's better safe than sorry is the way I look at it. So yeah, you always ask the contractor, are you licensed? Are you insured? Now, they're going to say yes to all this. You need to ask for a copy of it. Before I sign your contract, Mr. Contractor, would it be okay to request a copy of your license, a copy of your insurance? Of course he's going to say yes, but you got to hold him to it. So you've already established that. Now, in asking and interviewing contractors, it's like a relationship, right? It's like if you're buying a franchise. Some franchises have 10-year agreements. That means you're together with the franchisor for 10 years. With a kitchen remodel, it's 12 weeks. It's a long time. So what do? You tell the contractor, I want to interview you, I want to meet with you, and I want you to see my layout, and I want to make sure that we're comfortable and compatible. Every contractor is going to come to your house, and they're always going to say, yeah, no problem, I'll be there. So in the first meeting, you establish rapport with the contractor. The contractor wants to show you what he can do. And in this first meeting, it's for you, the homeowner, to think to yourself, can I work with this guy? Is this the kind of guy I want in my house every day? And that's how you start off. So when you are interviewing contractors, the next couple of questions are, okay, so here's what we're looking to do. Here's our goals. Have you done a kitchen like ours recently? Now, that's an important question because if you have a contractor who does room additions, he does basements, he does kitchens, baths, he does all kinds of stuff, maybe he's done a bunch of contracts, but not a kitchen. So you got to ask. Now, if he shows you a kitchen that's 2 or 3 years old, it's okay. And here's why. Go say, I'd like to see that kitchen. The reason is because 2, 3 years later, you want to see if his work held up. A lot of homeowners will be like, yeah, the door fell off. We have a problem here. Or it's like, look how beautiful. It's a couple years old and it still looks good. That's a good thing. Maybe you should ask the contractor, hey, can I go see a project that's mid-construction, in the middle of getting done? Why do I say that? Well, you go to this job and you see what they're doing. But I will tell you what's important is when you visit a job, see if the job site's clean. Look and see if things are organized. That's important, okay? If there's debris everywhere, I don't want a dirty job site, especially at my own house. So these are questions you need to ask, and these are observations you need to make when you're talking to a contractor. Questions about payment schedule. That's a big one, right? How do you want money, Mr. Contractor? How does this work? Deposit? Because I always tell homeowners, don't ever give half down. 50% deposit is not part of the Hire It Done repertoire. What I tell homeowners is give a deposit when you sign the contract and then have the contractor break up the entire job to payments on completion of certain items. And we have a whole podcast on payment schedules that you can always peruse back to on our YouTube channel. But again, breaking down the payments to pay for items and pay for the work after, keyword after, It's been completed. Remember that. Again, deposit is to get the job going. The next payment could be upon ordering cabinets. It could be upon after demolition, upon after receiving the permit, not before, after. Those are key components to having a successful job, because you don't want to be that homeowner that gave 50% down. The contractor stopped calling you back. You don't know where he is. He ghosted you. In my career of over 3 decades in home improvement, I've had a handful of homeowners email me saying, hey, we gave a deposit. The guy's gone. We can't get him back. What do we do? This is why this advice is so important. So back to the questions you need to ask. Another question you should ask the contractor is, what happens if we have a fight? What happens if I don't like the work? What happens if I'm unhappy with one of my selections? Those are all points of discussion, and they all need to be addressed. And by the way, you're spending a lot of money. The average kitchen is $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, if not more. I don't want you spending that kind of money without being comfortable with the contractor. When I pre-screen contractors and you go to hireitdone.com and you find contractors, I've talked to their homeowners. I've seen their work. I've checked their license and insurance. I've personally vetted them. So what does that do for you as a homeowner? It's pretty simple. It reduces your risk. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I can tell you that because I've checked the license and insurance and their experience, I kind of know whether they're going to do good or bad. Now, even the best contractors can screw a job up. However, when you find a contractor, look for one that is solution-minded. And what do I mean by solution-minded? What I mean is the contractor needs to be able to solve problems. So when a problem comes up, let's use demolition of the kitchen. And behind the walls, you see an infestation, maybe some rotted wood. There are contractors who will handle this in certain ways. There are contractors who will look at it and say, oh my God, Mrs. Jones, your house might collapse. You better be careful. It's $40,000 to fix it. See ya. We don't want that guy. There's contractors who will say, hey, Mrs. Jones, upon demolition, we discovered a few items that are worth taking a look at. When you get home today, take a look. Here's some pictures. I've already sent them to you. There's rotted woods, there's a sign of mold. However, it's not a big problem. I have already prescribed the fix. I'm putting it together in writing for you so I can present it to you so you can see what it is. That's the solution-minded contractor. And then there are contractors who will just fix it. And then at the end of the job, you get a bill for $10,000. What's this? Oh, well, you had rotted wood. We had to reframe the opening. We had to do this, 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 and this. And then they send you the bill. No way. That ain't happening. Not on my job, not on your job. This is why asking the right questions is so important when you hire a contractor. I want you to be successful. I want you to brag about your job. I want you to have a home improvement job and a project that you're proud of. Sometimes it goes bad. Sometimes it goes great. We just want to make sure that it goes great more than bad. That's how we do things. Now, what are other questions you need to ask, right? How many times a day should we be talking, Mr. Contractor? Ask him. See what he says. There are contractors, before they get your money, will say, call me all day long. We can spend the whole day on the phone. You know how easy it is to send a call to voicemail? So there's ways you ask. Mr. Contractor, communication is very important. In fact, Hire It Done says the nucleus. In my career, the nucleus of the best projects, the nucleus of the best relationship of any home improvement project is communication. Communication is super, super critical in the success of a project. So when you ask the contractor, hey, let's talk about communication, maybe it's a conversation. And of course, the contractor is going to say, well, Mrs. Homeowner, what can I help? What do you want to talk about? Oh, you want to talk about how we communicate? Okay, no problem. So this is what you can ask him. Do you give me a monthly schedule? Am I getting a daily schedule or a weekly schedule? He's probably going to say yes to all of it. So then you need to break that down. Okay, how are you presenting it to me? Is there a shared calendar? Are we going to go on Google? Is it Facebook? Am I getting a text message every morning with what's going on? It's important that you know that. Because I'll be honest with you, most contractors, they'll just say like, hey, demolition this week. You're not going to get the detailed everyday breakdown. And if you're a contractor, by the way, who does that, enlighten me. Come visit hireitdone.com and talk to me. But now you have the homeowners asking you about the schedule. Okay. The right answer the contractor should say to you is, Mrs. Jones, we talk on a regular basis. 1, 2 times a day, 3 times a day. If there's a problem, we talk immediately. However, there's days where we won't talk. What do you mean we won't talk? Yeah, there's days if no one's showing up today, if we're waiting on an inspector, unless you're bored, there's no reason to communicate. However, your success, your satisfaction is our priority as a contractor. That's what you want to hear. Okay? Now, text messaging. It used to be taboo back in the day. Today, if you text your contractor, and by the way, you should tell them, hey, I prefer texting. Contractors will be like, yeah, no problem. Text messages are on the phone. Most homeowners, most contractors, most everyone read a text message. Make sure that you agree with the contractor, hey, Mr. Contractor, I'm going to text you a lot. You're going to text me back. Set the ground rules. Tell them, all right, give me, some leeway on responding, because if I'm on a phone call, if I'm talking to you, Mrs. Homeowner, and someone else texts me, I'm not going to stop my conversation with you to answer a text. Give me some time. The other thing that's super important on text messaging is context. People read and listen. When they read a text message, their ears aren't hearing anything, so their brain is interpreting what the text sounded like. I can text you, hey, just the word hey. You can interpret that as, hey, or hey. You just don't know. So as long as we both acknowledge that context sometimes gets taken out of context, you need to make sure that everyone understands you could be taken the wrong way. That's why communication is important, and understanding communication is more important. Now, everyday text, great. Hey, I just got home. I saw that they put this, and this. I see a mess everywhere. Do you mind? Can you help me out? Can we do this? Now, if you're going to allow texting on a regular basis, which I agree with, and I say all contractors today should allow you to text. Got to have the rules, though. But secondly is job site communication and job site meetings, walkthroughs. Let's go back to our kitchen. A kitchen is a 12-week project. If a contractor says, I'll get it done in 2 weeks, your kitchen is either 2 foot by 2 foot. The cabinets are in stock. From the time you call the contractor over to the time you cooked your first meal, it's 12 weeks. And we don't need to argue over that in the comments. But if you think you know better, I'd like to hear from you too. However, we're back to the kitchen program. When I was a contractor, I would have homeowners meet me on the job site with a scheduled, we called it a walkthrough, a scheduled walkthrough every other week. So on a 12-week project, a 12-week kitchen, we had 6 meetings that were scheduled. It didn't mean that we didn't talk 16 times. It didn't mean that we didn't meet more than that, because there's times where I come to the job site to meet my guys, to walk them through, to make sure to check the quality. You may be home and we're there. But I'm talking about an actual scheduled every other Tuesday at 10 a.m. for 1 hour. I am meeting you on the job site. Now, what are the rules of this meeting? What's the agenda? Let me give you the agenda. Number 1, the goal of this meeting is to make sure that you as a homeowner and me as the contractor have our same finger on the pulse of the job. What do we do at that meeting? We review what we did last week. So at the meeting, Mrs. Jones, last week we delivered the cabinets. We confirmed that they're all there. We took them out of the box, made sure there's no damages. And while that was going on, we framed the walls and we got that done. And then after you've agreed what happened last week, you now change the topic to, what are we doing this week? Well, Mrs. Jones, now that we got all the cabinets out and this and that, this week we're waiting on an inspector. We're then going to start hanging the cabinets. And while we're hanging them, I need you to set up the delivery of your appliances and the various checklists. So now you've reviewed what you did last week. You've already discussed everything going on this week. And then the last part of this conversation, third part, is next week we have this scheduled. We have the granite being delivered. We have appliances being delivered. We're going to be touching up the floors. or whatever is in the sequence of construction. So now you've gone a 3-week calendar in a 1-hour meeting. Okay. So what's the importance of this? And by the way, this is advanced. This is why Hired Done is successful, why we find good, successful contractors. Because when I talk about this with contractors, I want to make sure that they know and agree with how I'm talking. And they're like, oh, wow, this is great. Because a lot of contractors learn from me. So now back to 3 weeks. You've gone over a 3-week period in one meeting. So now go 2 weeks forward. The following week, there's no meeting, but you already know what's going on next week because you had that meeting. So now the next week is 2 weeks after your meeting. It's Tuesday morning. It's 10 a.m. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, look at the kitchen. The cabinets are in. This looking great, right? Let's go over what we did last week. Well, last week we agreed that you were delivering the appliances. The countertops were getting put in. The floor was being touched up. Oh, the appliances never showed. The granite is delayed. So now you know, right? And so you're on your meeting and now you say, okay, so now we have to adjust the schedule. Everyone's adjusting, moving back and forth. And then you say, so this week, Mrs. Homeowner, we're going to do some other things. We're going to go pick up the hardware, the final plumbing. Your light fixtures are in. And so all this is getting done this week. But next week, we're going to push off everything because we're still waiting on the appliances and we're still waiting on things. You see how things get adjusted? And everybody has on the same page and is communicating so that it makes a better project. And why do I say that? I'm going to tell you why. If you didn't have these meetings, the appliances didn't show up, you don't know when the granite's coming, you're not sure about the inspections, the communication's not where you want it to be, what does that do to you as the homeowner? It's called the unknown. And when you don't know, your mind starts to wander, right? I do this from experience because my mind wanders. If I don't hear from a homeowner every couple of days, I get nervous. Oh no, what's going on? Are they mad at me? So the homeowner's thinking, oh shoot, what's going on here? Maybe he's gone. Maybe the contractor's not coming on. And that's the biggest complaint homeowners have. Communication. He didn't call me for 3 days. No one's showing up for 5 days. Where are we at? What's going on? That's why this meeting and this walkthrough is so critical to success. This advice is why I've been doing this my whole life. I want to share it with you from my experience. And as a homeowner, you're spending a lot of money. Today, home improvement is very, very expensive. You have hard-earned money. The last thing you want to do is have to pay to do things twice. Now, what happens when there's a myriad of problems on a job? You're communicating, but the quality's not there, or you get in a fight, or something shows up and they do something and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't pay for that. I didn't want that. I didn't order that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. There's a dispute. We'll call it dispute resolution. Okay. Make sure your contractor has a dispute resolution clause in his contract. Now, there's mediation, there's arbitration, there's litigation. 3 words that we try to stay out of. However, it's something that you have to deal with. I would talk to your contractor and say, listen, if we get in a fight over something, how do you propose we handle it? If we're disputing, if we're disagreeing, Mr. Contractor, tell me how you want to handle it. Think about that. Let him in his own words, okay? And hear what he has to say. Because there are times when the contractor will say one thing and do another. There are times when a homeowner will agree and then something happens and then they disagree and it's the homeowner's fault. In fact, even though I'm every homeowner's best friend, and even though I want homeowners to have the best remodeling job, homeowners are responsible for 50% of the problems in home improvement today. They'll watch a YouTube channel and all of a sudden they're an expert. See on the news, Hall of Shame, Ruth to the rescue, help me Hank, right? A lot of times it's contractors. The Better Business Bureau gets complaints every year. The number 1 and number 2 spot of complaints is either used car salesmen or home improvement contractors. And they flip-flop for number 1 and number 2. So homeowners get this in their head that, maybe I got a bad contractor, right? Or you get a neighbor who comes over to the job. Oh, look at my new kid. The neighbor's like, oh, look at that's crooked. Oh my God, what did he do here? And so then you got an expert critiquing. So back to communication with your contractor and asking him, how are we going to solve any problems? Let him tell you. Now, what do you want to hear from the contractor? You don't want to just hear, Mrs. Jones, we don't have problems. That's for the shady guys. We're great. We're the best. No. What you want to hear is this. You know what, Mrs. Homeowner? It's rare, but there are disagreements. There are times when my guys do bad work. There are times when homeowners misunderstand us and we misunderstand homeowners. Again, back to being solution-minded. So depending on the dispute, depends on the answer, right? If you picked out green granite and brown shows up, there better be a document that shows you picked out green. Selection sheet. You went to the granite shop and you put a Post-it note on this green granite and then it fell off and someone picked it up and put it on the brown. That's a problem. So again, major screw-ups, major headaches can be disputes. Everything should be documented. And by the way, it's the responsibility of the contractor to make sure it's documented. You know, even a text message. Hey, Mrs. Homeowner, thanks for meeting me at the granite shop. Your selection sheet is all set, but just to confirm, you picked Grand Blanco and you got this edge and it's in the text message. Those are things that need to have it. Document everything. In fact, when I give homeowners advice on a contract and I say, look, I'm not an attorney, however, from my experience, make sure the contractor writes the scope of work and puts everything that's included. And then I say to the homeowners, give it back to the contractor and write everything in the contract that's not included. And write it like a story, a beginning, a middle, and end. The reason why I say that is because I want homeowners to have a hassle-free home improvement. And I want to minimize and reduce any headaches. By doing what I say, by following my advice, I want you as a homeowner to have successful renovation. That's what you got to do today. We live in a crazy world and your money's hard earned. We don't want it squandered. We don't want it haphazardly spent. We want it spent properly. So for successful home improvement, visit hireitdone.com, follow my advice. And you can always reach out to me for more advice. I help all kinds of homeowners. So click the link below and I'll be able to help you. Thanks for tuning in to today's podcast. If you liked it, I'd love for you to subscribe to my podcast. Also, if you ever have any questions for me directly, my email's adam@hireitdone.com. Thanks for tuning in.
Get advice from us. What you don't know can hurt you.